The anti-Semitic incident counter is just sourced from the ADL. What does the ADL consider an anti-Semitic incident? Someone saying like free Palestine at a protest, or comparing Zionism to Nazism. And like most of their sources for those things don't even exist. It's like someone told this to us. So yeah, the ADL is an organization that is explicitly invested in trying to frame criticism of the settler colonial state of Israel as anti-Semitism. So they have an incentive to say anti-Semitism is surging in the US. And the reason why it's surging is because people hate Israel. And their source for these statistics, like most of them aren't even sourced. A lot of them are, but a lot of them aren't. Like, a lot of it's just like a protester compared Israel to Nazism. And the source for it is like reported to ADL. And it's like, okay, for one, that's not anti-Semitism, even remotely. Doesn't matter how many times you say it. Comparing a state that is functionally and materially incredibly similar to Nazism is nothing wrong with that. Okay, pretty simple. And two, the source is obviously incredibly inadequate either way. Let's look at the ADL Anti-Semitic Incidents Tracker, just so that I can show you some examples of this. Okay, Zionism. At an anti-Israel protest in Norfolk, a demonstrator held a sign that said, "Zionism is racism." Source, ADL identified. This counts as an anti-Semitic incident for them, which then goes towards this statistic of a surge in anti-Semitism that their statistics are being used to claim is happening. Now, there may be a surge in anti-Semitism, but if there is, the ADL is not a valid source for that claim, because just look at what they call anti-Semitism. And not just what they call anti-Semitism, but the source for it is nothing. The sources are ADL identified, nothing else. None of these incidents that I'm showing here, 9 of them, are sourced at all. At an anti-Israel protest in Birmingham, a demonstrator held a sign that read, "Zionism equals racism." Source, ADL identified. During an anti-Israel rally in Kansas City, a protester held a sign that read, "Zionism is racism, abolish Israel." Such rhetoric both demonizes Zionism and implies support for ending Israel's existence as a sovereign country. Yeah, it does. And that's not anti-Semitic in the slightest. What the fuck are you saying? And your source is non-existent. You could have just fucking made this up either way. We have no proof of it. And why wouldn't they make shit up? Because the ADL is explicitly trying to connect this idea of like a surge in anti-Semitism, which may very well be true, given, for example, mass shootings in the last 5, 6, 7 years or so in synagogues by white supremacists. But they're trying to specifically link this narrative with anti-Israel advocacy, with pro-Palestine advocacy. And this, you can clearly see this here. And they have a clear incentive to do so. They have a clear incentive to not only create fake incidents that never actually happen to inflate these numbers, but to try and like associate anti-Semitism with the aforementioned, pro-Palestine activism, which is what this is. Not only is there no source for these claims, but what they're claiming to be anti-Semitism isn't even anti-Semitic. You think they're going to make shit up, they would at least do it better than this. A protester chanted, "Rise up, don't back down. No Zionism in our town." This is tantamount to a call for Zionists to be excluded from the community. Yeah, it is. I would also like Nazis to be excluded from my community. I would like fascists to be excluded from my community. I would like Zionists to be excluded from my community. Fuck yeah. Eat shit, this is a fucking anti-Semitic incident. What else you got? During an anti-Israel rally in Princeton, a demonstrator held a sign that read, "Zionism equals Nazism." Is this seriously all you got? A Jewish man wearing a kippah was walking in downtown Chicago with his mother when a demonstrator from a pro-Palestinian rally yelled at him, "Jewish people, yes, Zionism, no." Was he yelling at the guy? Was the guy just happening to be walking past when this guy said this? Was the guy who was just presented as a neutral Jewish man not participating in counter-protests or anything? We don't fucking know, because the source for this is reported to ADL. Where's the source? Protesters in Brooklyn projected onto a building the messages, "Zionism is terrorism." Yeah, it is. The word Zionism is Satanism was found spray-painted on various public property around downtown Miami. That one could be anti-Semitic. It could also just not be, because, comparing fucking evil ideologies to Satanism is fucking incredibly common. I myself am known to call the American genocidal state satanic, which it is. So this could be anti-Semitic. It could be tied to like anti-Semitic conspiracy theories that frame Jews as being satanic or whatever. It could just be someone rightfully identifying Zionism with an adjective that denounces it in the strongest terms possible, and as people often do, by calling it like satanic or calling them Satan or whatever. And either way, no source for it. So yeah. Next, the words "Free Palestine," "Fuck Zionism," and "Solidarity" STP Palestine was spray painted on the pavement outside a synagogue. Okay, which synagogue? Is this synagogue pro-Israel, pro-Israeli colonialism? Those are relevant questions to whether this is, anti-Semitic or not, and relevant questions as to whether it even happened or not. Source reported to ADL. We don't know. We can't actually examine the facts of this case, and it really feels like they're intentionally hiding the facts to avoid you from asking these questions about them and looking into them for yourself, if they even happened. Like, of all of these, nine proclaimed anti-Semitic events, 6 of them you cannot spin as anti-Semitism in any way, shape, or form. 3 of them possibly could have been somehow motivated by anti-Semitism, but we need far more facts to establish that. Those 3 are the one where they claim that someone targeted a Jewish person with an anti-Zionist slogan. This would only be valid if this was really just a random Jewish guy who happened to be walking by, nothing to do with any of the protests or anything. He wasn't known to be a pro-Israel supporter or anything. He wasn't a counter-protester, and the guy who said that was actually specifically targeting him rather than just saying this when he happened to be walking by. But we don't even have any proof that this actually happened, let alone enough proof to actually examine the facts of the case. And the rest of it is true with the Zionism is Satanism graffiti and the graffiti outside the synagogue saying Free Palestine, etc. Even in the cases where you could possibly say that they were anti-Semitic, if we had more details, they don't provide any details, they don't provide any proof that it happened. The rest of it are just total bullshit. So this is what the ADL's anti-Semitic incident list is. Surely it has plenty of actual real anti-Semitic incidents on there, but they try to muddy the waters by not only inflating it in general, but trying to explicitly link anti-Semitism in general to anti-Israel advocacy, because the ADL fundamentally as an organization, a huge part of their present day existence, and honestly probably their existence since at least the 70s, because they have been known for doing anti-Palestinian espionage on the part of the US state for a very long time. Huge part of what they do is to try and run interference for Israel. So you can't disconnect that from that. So let's see. Let's just search Israel racism. Okay, what about racism? Okay, this one said something obviously anti-Semitic. Zionism is racism. So this one literally says racism is good. Okay, well that clearly doesn't have any. Do you notice how something interesting is that the whites, they're clearly white supremacists, obviously not connected to pro-Palestinian activism, anti-Semitic incidents, actually have real sources for them, right? They have links to mainstream news outlets that clearly provide proof and a broader narrative of what happened. Those 3 have actual mainstream news sources. Whereas the ones that just so happen to try to link things with anti-Israel stuff, they are completely unsourced, ADL identified, reported to ADL, etc. So you can really tell the difference here. The white supremacist anti-Semitic incidents have very clear evidence for them, right? The ones that they claim happened, most of which wouldn't even be anti-Semitic even if they did, that are related to Palestine, Israel, etc., have no sources whatsoever. They could have easily just made them up. This is exactly what I'm talking about with the ADL's anti-Semitism list. If there is an increase in anti-Semitism in the US in the last 5-6 years or so, I wouldn't doubt it one bit, but I certainly doubt that this source is a reliable means of showing that, given how clearly they tried to muddy the waters on that and clearly tried to inflate it. At an anti-Israel protest, a demonstrator held a sign demonizing Zionists that read, in part, being pro-Zionist makes you pro-genocide and pro-apartheid. Yeah, it does. It factually does. Source, ADL identified. Misspelled. Amazing stuff, man. Great source. And the example isn't even anti-Semitic in the slightest. Give me a fucking break, dude. A Jewish man carrying an Israeli flag was beaten in Manhattan. You carry the modern day equivalent of the Nazi flag. I mean, I honestly, if people take exception to that, you're at fault for that. It's not anti-Semitic. If he's carrying a fucking Israeli flag, give me a fucking break, dude. Some of this is just weird. A man with a gun entered congregation Beth Israel in Colleyville during services and took 3 congregants and a rabbi as hostages. Okay, no doubt that happened. Source reported to ADL. You really can't source that? Dude, there must be 50 news articles about that. Source it, at least. Come on. I'm not saying it didn't happen. Obviously it did. There's no way they would make such a specific claim. That never happened. I bet Googling I could find a source. It's right here. Just, dude, it's millions of sources for you to use. Come on. Even when the event they're saying, they're citing clearly did happen, they sometimes don't even bother to source it properly. The Goldman Sachs building in Battery Park City was vandalized with stickers of the Israeli flag that were redesigned to look like a swastika. Okay, and? If you don't want to be compared to the Nazis, my advice for you, my friends, is to stop doing Nazi shit. Congregation HaShalom's banner that read, HaShalom supports Israel, was vandalized. The banner sits on the front lawn of their property. This is exactly what I'm saying. If you have a Jewish community organization or whatever, Great, good for you. I don't give a fuck. But you have a Jewish community organization, a synagogue or whatever, that openly supports fucking Israel to the extent that you put a banner about it outside on the fucking lawn or whatever, and the banner gets vandalized because you support a fucking genocidal settler colonial ethno state. That's not anti-Semitic, my friend. It's not anti-Semitic, obviously. It wouldn't be fucking anti-Catholic if like some Catholic church put out a banner saying, I support Cardinal George Pell and his pedophilia, and someone vandalized that. Obviously, just insane shit here. A synagogue's "We Support Israel" sign was vandalized. Good. It's a sign saying we support Israel. We support fucking genocidal settler colonialism. What do you expect? Look, there's more than enough here. There's more than enough here to prove the claims that I'm making here, which is that the ADL's list of anti-Semitic incidents is bullshit. Surely there were real anti-Semitic incidents on there. Plenty of them, in fact. But they are mixed in with so much unsourced bullshit that wouldn't even be anti-Semitic, even if it was true. And a lot of it that you just had to take their word on, where they could clearly be spinning the facts of the case if it were true. That it's just functionally worthless, man. And the fact that it's cited uncritically when the ADL clearly has an ulterior agenda for maintaining it and trying to link, white supremacist, clearly evidenced examples of anti-Semitism with like just bog standard anti-Zionist phraseology. It is more than indicative of their clear bias and their clear ulterior motive for running this shit.